So our next performer up here is the puppet mistress for the Verge Theater Puppet Company, including the giant puppet shows we put on every fall. And she's also a member of Don't Close Your Eyes Live Radio Theater, and personally my favorite person reading up here tonight. Give it up for Sadie Cassavaugh.
Waco, Texas. April 24th, 1979, I am born. This is the best thing that will ever happen to me in Waco, Texas. Now, the interesting thing about being from Waco, Texas is that there is nothing interesting about being from Waco, Texas. Nothing interesting ever happened in Waco, Texas, except for one event that did capture the imagination of the nation. I have no light to shed on that event at all. I'm not actually from Waco. I was born in Waco, but a lot of people who say they're from Waco are actually from what's the Greater Waco Statistical Area, which is a nice way of saying a whole shit ton of podunk towns all the way around Waco. And all these people kind of say, yeah, I'm from Waco. You know where that is. You heard about the thing. I'm from one of these little towns called Mart, and when I was growing up, my mother did a lot of charity work with a woman by the name of Marge Lundy. And this particular woman owned a honky-tonk in a town that was actually north of Waco called West. This honky-tonk was called the Night Owl, and it was a very popular place, and Marge was a pillar of the community. Now, Marge had herself a younger sister, a disabled younger sister, and this younger sister had herself an abusive husband. And Marge told her brother-in-law that if he ever raised a hand to her sister again, she would shoot him dead. Well, he did. And she did. 1982, and it's already the trial of the decade. Now, this probably could have gone poorly for Marge if it were not for the hero of her story. A man who had nothing to do at all with the crime, but who used to sing in her honky-tonk. And this man came to be a character witness at a time when he was famous. He was a local boy made good. He was from Abbott, which is actually Hill County, not McLennan County, but whatever. And this man came to be a character witness at Marge Lundy's trial. His name was Willie Nelson. Marge was acquitted. Now, I don't know if this is because of the basic goodness and infallibility and power that Willie Nelson has in Texas, or if it's because in Texas it's okay to shoot a man if you tell him you're going to do it. But for my life, it was always the former. Now, we used to do a lot of driving around because what you do when you live in these podunk towns is you drive around to other podunk towns and go to their restaurants. And there's a lot of highway and back roads in between these podunk towns, and so there's a lot of radio on. And my dad only listened to AM radio, and he listened to a lot of Willie Nelson. But every time Willie Nelson came on the radio, my dad would stop and go, "Oh, there's old Willie." Just like he was a great friend. And he told me that story about Marge Lundy's honky-tonk every single time we drove to West, which we did a lot because those kolaches are good. Yes, they are. Right? Yes. Washington, D.C. October 2001, I have completely suppressed my native Texas accent. And I am on top of the world, or at least on the bottom rung of the ladder that leads to the top of the world. I I've just graduated college, and I have a job as an administrative assistant at a nonprofit so swanky that their administrative assistants require college degrees. That's right. But I am indeed on top of the world because I am drunk. I'm at this little pub outside the Washington Post building on L Street called the Post Pub, and it's this little retro dive, and they have a jukebox, but most importantly, they have $2 vodka and cranberry juice. And I've had about $10 worth of vodka and cranberry juice. And I suddenly realized as my coworkers are filtering home, and I'm having a really great time, but I don't have a way home, actually. It's about a $25 cab ride to my tiny basement apartment in way, way, way northwest DC, and it's nowhere near a metro stop or anything like that. And then I have my new boyfriend, my brand new boyfriend, lives only 9 blocks away from here, so I'll just go crash at his house. And then I have the thought that this is not the best neighborhood for a young girl to be walking alone at night, but it'll be fine! It'll be great, I'll just hop from street light to street light. Nothing possibly go wrong. And as I'm about to step out and cross the street, this van comes speeding around the corner. You know, a white unmarked van, and it's swerving, and it screeches to a halt, and it jumps up on the curb, and the back door is just thrown open, and I step back, because the only thing that can come out of this van is like a horde of people in Joker masks. And I step back, and I clutch my chest, and what actually does come out is a tumble, and an explosion of sequins, blue sequins, and beautiful, beautiful platinum curls and lots of white skin. It's like a confetti gun that went off wrong. It didn't explode, it just splattered on the pavement. And I look at this, and the van like kind of starts to drive away, and the pile unfurls itself, and it is a beautiful woman. I mean, and it just keeps unfurling. It's so tall. It's like Marilyn Monroe's head on Sid Charisse's body. Sequins, you know? And she takes off her shoes, and she starts chasing the van and throwing her shoes and saying, "You motherfuckers, I'm gonna..." And I'm like, okay, maybe I should call my boyfriend. So I opened my 2001 state-of-the-art flip phone. I call my boyfriend, and he goes to sleep early because he works early, and I think that I've woken him up. He's like, "Hello?" And I'm like, "You gotta come and get me, it's raining drag queens." He does not sound happy about this at all, but he hasn't said it yet, but he's totally in love with me. It'll be fine. So I go back into the Post Pub, and I listen to some music on the jukebox, and I don't have any more money, so I don't have another vodka cranberry juice, but the ones I did have are just flowing from my veins. And finally I look over and I see him, and oh, it's so gorgeous anyway, and he comes and he takes my arm, and I'm like, "Oh, are we going so soon?" As we stumble out, we set up on the path, and we're walking towards his house, and I hear this voice. It says, "Hey, girlie." And I look over, and it's a homeless man in a wheelchair. And I suddenly realize I know this homeless guy, because sometime in the last week I was sitting at a coffee shop outside, and I heard someone say, "Hey, you got a light?" But I didn't realize that it was him because I was talking on my flip phone. And I didn't realize he was talking to me until I heard, "But you didn't get to talk to me, you dumb cunt." And I look over, and he's exposed himself. He's opened his fly, and he's got his penis out. And so I am just thrilled to run into my homeless friend. We've seen everything there is to see. I know lots of stuff about this guy now. I said, "Hey, how are you?" I can't complain. Which I really appreciate my homeless friends. I was playing with this little Burger King toy. It's like a Casper the Friendly Ghost Burger King toy. He's holding this jug of clear liquid, and he just reaches out and he hands it to me. And when people hand you things, you take it. So I take it, and I'm like, "What is this?" And he says, "It's Willie Nelson's favorite vodka." It's a plastic jug, and This is a crossroads. I figure if being a good friend of Willie Nelson will excuse murder, what's a little homelessness? Now, this part had to be confirmed by my boyfriend the next morning, but what I said was, well, any friend of Willie's? Chug, 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 and I hand it back to him. He chug, chug, chugs. And he hands it back to me, and I chug, chug, chug. And I hand it back to him, and he's chug, 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 and I'm going for it, and my boyfriend's dragging me away. And he throws me the Burger King toy, and I catch it. I catch it to my chest and give him a kiss goodbye, and we walk the remaining 8 blocks back to my boyfriend's apartment, where he immediately wants to go to sleep, but I just want to party or something, or watch TV, or what do you want to do? He does, in fact, actually want to go to sleep. So and I'm like, okay, all right, so I stretch, and I go to roll over, and as I roll over, I have hooked my arm in the cord to the box fan that is over the window above our bed, and I pull an entire box fan down onto my face. So instead of going to sleep, my boyfriend gets to comfort this. He's like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, honey. So I'm throwing up all night, and the whole time I'm throwing up, I'm like, that homeless man gave me a disease. I've contracted a virus where you vomit vodka. Well, the next morning I get up and I have to put on my vodka-reeking clothes that I wore the day before, and I have a giant black eye. And I have to take myself off to work, where, of course, all of my superiors are like, are you okay? Is there something you want to talk about? You can tell me anything. It's really okay. No, there's nothing I want to talk about with my overlords. Thank you. Well, it's not the greatest job in the world. I mean, it should be the greatest job in the world, but I really think I should leave it. But this job does have dental insurance, and I should take advantage of my dental insurance, because who knows when I'll ever have dental insurance again. By the way, the answer is never. I have for a couple of months been feeling my jaw ache because my wisdom teeth are really impacted. And so I made an appointment, and I took a week off of work to get my wisdom teeth pulled. And they're like, yeah, just take all the time you need. And that sounds wonderful, I think I will. So my boyfriend takes me to my dentist appointment, where they gas me with laughing gas, and while I'm conscious but don't care, just completely rip all of my wisdom teeth out of my head, give me a prescription for Vicodin, say take 2 every couple of hours, and get out. And so I go back to his house, and I'm crashing at his house, and it is glorious, because I'm taking so much Vicodin, I'm actually seeing unicorns, and I'm watching a Star Trek The Next Generation marathon, and there is nobody calling me like, Sadie, I can't get my knockoff Palm Pilot to sync with Time Matters, can you fix it? Wait, I can't fix it? I majored in literature. I bullshitted my way into this job. That's what the majors do. And what I don't realize is that my entire lower face has swollen up so large that my face looks like the south end of a northbound bull elephant. I even kind of naturally sway a little bit like this. If I want to see something, I have to turn my head because my eyeballs are numb. And what unfortunately happened during this time is I developed this little area in my face. It was right under the bridge of my glasses, right between my eyes. And the only way I can really describe it is it was like a volcano being born into an island in the Pacific. I don't know exactly what this thing is. It's not a pimple, it's like spongy or something, but it's actually pushing my glasses up so that I start to look like a phenomenon. And about this time, what also happens is the swelling in my face creeps up into my black eye, which at this point was green and is now black again. And suddenly, so is the other one. And I'm having to squint a lot, even though, and my glasses are a little off now, you know what I mean? And I have to go back to have my sockets checked. So I go back to my dentist, and I'm sitting there waiting for him to come in, and he comes in and he goes, "Oh, what is that?" I'm like, "It's really swollen." And he's like, "No, that. That's infected. That's disgusting." Well, I guess you have a point there. I should get that checked. Yeah. He was really angry about whatever was happening with my face. And he looks up and he's like, "Yeah, your sockets are fine. Here's a refill on your bike and get out of here." Okay. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty miserable. It's really miserable. And I go home, and then we make it. I'm an adult now, and so I have a boyfriend who makes doctor's appointments for me. It's really handy. So I go to the dermatologist, and he walks in, and he goes, "Oh, God." Right? And he says, "I think we should aspirate that right away." And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And he pulls out this giant syringe, and I close my eyes like this, and I can feel him kind of poking, like trying to get a spot, and nothing's really happening. And I open my eyes, and the syringe he's got is full of orange goo, liters and liters of orange goo. And I said, "Are you going to put that into my face?" And he said, "I just took this out of your face." So I go home, and as I go home, this thing is actually filled back up again. Only now it has a puncture wound in it, so it's leaking. And I get to tell my boyfriend that the dermatologist told me that the thing on my face is an abscess that happened because that's where the fan struck me, and then my black eye was actually preventing it from draining, and so this infection that I didn't know about because I was just going crazy on Vicodin, so it didn't hurt or anything like that, it was actually like eating around into my face, and I had to have it drained several times. And at one point I was told if it filled back up again, they were going to have to open it, scrape it, and pack it full of gauze. So I'm feeling pretty low. I'm so sick of Star Trek The Next Generation. Talking positivity all the time. You know, like everything's utopia and it's always going to be okay. It's not always okay. Sometimes bad things happen. And so my boyfriend takes me to a video store because I have nothing to watch. And it's like a cult video store, you know, it's like a real small, narrow aisles, low ceilings. And I'm having a great time looking around, but my boyfriend seems a little nervous. And I remember I had a completely swollen face, 2 black eyes, and an abscess on my face. And I'm obviously on drugs. I go up to the counter. The guy behind the counter is this big, huge guy. He's like, "Can I help you find anything?" And I said, "I want to watch Snatch." And I look up at him finally. It's hard to open my eyes, so I look up at him, and he's just staring at my boyfriend, and his jaw's ticking, and he's just like taking the money and never breaking eye contact and shoving the register. Probably didn't give him his change. And I look behind him, and he's got all these photos of himself in costumes. you know, it's just really cool. Like, obviously this guy, he's the owner, the manager or something, but he likes to show what he does out in the community, you know, which is really cool. And even one of these, in a lot of them he's dressed like a woman actually, but in one of them he's wearing a blue sequin dress. And I look at him, and he looks at me with the most passionate look I think anybody's ever given me. It's like back and forth between me and my boyfriend. You poor dear, you fucker. You poor dear, you fucker. You poor dear. And I said, "You're the guy from the van!" My boyfriend's like, "Leave it right now." I'm gonna write this very soon. Okay? So we get home and I watch my movies, and overall I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I still have to go get my abscess drained a bunch of times. And my work starts calling me after telling me I could take time off, and they're like, "We really need you to come in." And so I do. I mean, I get dressed and I haul myself down there and I'm like, "What?" In a way I was really flattered because I must actually be important to this office in some way. They can't do anything without me. And when I get there, they hand me a box of latex gloves and a bag. Now this was October of 2001, and in September of 2001, some event happened in DC and New York. I have no light to shed on that event either. But they said, "There's been an anthrax attack and we need you to open the mail." You have to come back to work. We need you so badly. Nobody can get their pizza coupons. I have to leave this job, but I'm too scared to tell them I want to leave, so instead I tell them I'm moving to Montana. And I put in my notice right then and there, and then I have to make plans to move to Montana. And that part actually worked out really well. My boyfriend came with me, and we got married and stuff. I told you he was totally in love with me. And then one day my dad comes to visit for a little while, and I notice that Willie Nelson is going to be playing in Big Sky. Oh, that's right. And I tell my dad, "Dad, let's go to Willie Nelson." And he says, "Why would I want to do that?" And I said, "Really, Willie Nelson? You don't want to go see Willie Nelson?" And he says, "Well, I like old Willie's music, but he's just an old doper." Which was kind of a heartbreaking moment for me. And then also, all the times you were telling me that story about Willie Nelson, you couldn't have added this little appendix about your true opinion of him before I got an abscess in my face. Dad. So my husband and I go to Willie Nelson, and in this beautiful, beautiful amphitheater of the mountains, the natural amphitheater, Blue Eyes, Crying in the Rain, is playing out and echoing off the mountains, and it is an absolute perfect moment. And I look up at Willie Nelson, and you know, he really is an old doper.